You look good, man.
Thank you so much. So do you.
Yeah, it's good. I've enjoyed being out in California. We're here at Windmark Studios, down in Santa Monica. I think this studio, this was a suggestion from you or your camp. Have you recorded here?
Yeah, we were in here yesterday and the day before.
Wow.
It's
Doing what?
actually a real studio.
What were you doing in here?
I'm writing some new things.
Some new things.
Yeah.
Not for Coldplay though.
Well, maybe. Sometimes, as kind of a busman's holiday, I like to try and pretend to be Rihanna, and so sometimes I just come and try and write Rihanna songs.
Just on your own. She's not even in the vicinity.
She was not in the vicinity, no.
No.
I don't think she even knows that I did it. This would be an exclusive, and they may not even get to her.
Do you get asked a lot by people to contribute words and melodies because you have such a strong sense of that, and people are always looking for talented writers, you know?
From time to time. I think the reason I particularly am drawn to her is because her voice is so perfect, and it's so different to me that it's like going outside of yourself but still doing the thing I love to do.
But every time that you've written a song, I think, that has either been, the intention's been to give it to somebody, or in fact it has gone to someone, whether it's Embrace or Johnny Cash, which is both sides of that coin, or Rihanna, who you have collaborated with, on your music, you do have an ability to be able to kind of put yourself in their music somewhat, it's an adaptable process. It sounds like you, but I think you obviously enjoy kind of the fantasy of writing for someone else.
Yes, well, it is often a fantasy because, and case in point, one of the things we came up with yesterday we'll keep. So sometimes it's like there's a liberation from thinking from someone else's viewpoint, where I can say things that I might not say, but then we end up keeping that song. That happened with that song Paradise.
Yeah.
And it's happened a few times.
The intention of Paradise was to write for someone else, and then it ended up being a Coldplay song. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Was that one for Rihanna, and then that's why you kind of brought her into the song?
No, that was actually came from being asked about the X Factor,
right?
Winner's song.
Wow. So
then I played it to Will, our drummer, and he said, "No, we'll have that." And if Will ever says that, then I listen.
Yeah, Will seems to have that role to play in the band, apart from being, as we've established many times before, most improved every record, except on this one. Very little of Will in this record. No? He does have that kind of honesty gene, doesn't he? He seems to be very straight.
Well, the more that time goes on, the more I appreciate the chemistry of our group, the four of us, and then Phil, our secret creative boss, because it becomes apparent what everyone's strengths are, and Will's is really kind of an anchoring. When I think of him, I think of something very heavy and granite-like, in a great way, like the base of a statue, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. And
without that, the thing topples. And so, while sometimes we can fall out over, he would sometimes like a darker sound, and I'm more like, let's make it more like Blurred Lines. Ultimately, that chemistry is what keeps us together.
So if we're talking about the chemistry of the band, and we've never spoken about this, and I suppose, almost 15 years on from your first record, it's a good time to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Johnny. I mean, what have you learned about Johnny in relation to the band and this chemistry?
Well, Johnny is really so sweet, and I'd say he and Phil are the sort of antidotes to any trouble that might arise between the rest of us. Johnny's only lost his temper with me once, which is really incredible.
Can you tell us what it was about?
All I remember, that this was about 2004, he said, I'm sick of your shit. That was the only time ever in the long time that we've been best friends, and he has just this peaceful thing, and then quietly he always writes the best bits of the song. Whenever he still has the ability to really elevate a song and make me think, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that riff there.
As a guitar player, I think all great guitar players who work with great singers, in particular that dynamic, they are able to support the emotional resonance of a song in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can wrap you up when you're vulnerable, or they can charge alongside you when you're leading someone into battle, you know, fall on the floor. It's so important, isn't it? And on this record, which we will talk about in depth because I love it, Ghost Stories.
Thanks.
It does feel like the whole band feel like they're kind of hugging you in a way and surrounding you, supporting you.
You're going to make me cry. That's kind of we're very, very tight at the moment. I know that I'm the one that is the front man and the one that's on the magazines and stuff, but you know, of everything we've been blessed with, what we constantly come back to is this relationship, because none of us are prodigies or virtuosos, and we've seen lots of bands come and go in the time that we've been around, and we've seen the ones that have lasted, and we've worked really hard to communicate with each other in a way that brings the best out of everybody, and that started when we started working with Brian Eno. He would say you really have to respect the chemistry between you, and I don't know if we ever told you, there was a time when he kicked me out of the band for a few weeks to get everybody else's confidence up, because at that time I could be quite strong-minded in terms it has to sound like this. And so he taught us a bit more flexibility and let everyone get to the end of their idea before any judgment is passed.
Amazing. I mean, for someone, and don't worry, Guy, we will get to you. I'm desperate to know what Chris thinks of you as well. But for you to be in a band as one quarter of this unit, to be told by someone with the experience and wisdom and I suppose your respect, like Brian Eno, to say you need to step aside, how did that make you feel at the time?
Well, I was pleased. This was after our third album, X and Y, where we lost our way a little bit. Phil wasn't around, he was sick, and I was, you know, famous in like tabloid stuff, and we were coming off the back of a Rush of Blood to the Head. It was just our record company was all over the place. It was all like share prices, and it was a very wonderful, you know, learning period, but at the time it was chaos. And so when Brian came in, I was so grateful, because it felt like we had a teacher. You know, I was not aware that you could keep learning after college finished, before I met him, and now that's all we care about, is what can we learn next, how can we improve, how can we you know, as people and as musicians. But so when he came in, it was like, oh, thank you. It was like a father figure coming in and saying, you're a very talented band, but here's how we should rearrange the furniture.
It's understandable in a way that someone of your age at that time would feel like, you know, well, what is there left to learn? I've released my debut album, Parachutes. It's been received with this huge level of critical acclaim and success. Rush of Blood to the Head was a huge, enormous global success. I mean, that kind of, you know, that speed at which that happens can throw you off your feet, can't it?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change a single thing, but I'm so glad that at a certain point, you know, and we were also having all the regular troubles that you read about in bands' biographies. We were having all of that, and
too early for a behind the music special, man.
It is too early, and also we don't think that talking about that stuff is very glamorous. So, but all of that stuff was going on, and that's when we bought our own little place and really tried to reconnect as friends. And we had the guidance of Brian, and then this guy Marcus Dravs as well, and then Phil came back in, you know, glorious Technicolor again, and
you survived it.
Every album since then we've been kind of getting closer and closer, and everyone's role within the band is becoming more respected by the others.
So what is it about Guy?
Well, Guy is the sort of hi-fi. He, you know, for example, on Ghost Stories, he's the one that really saw all the mixes home and the mastering with Spike Stent, and
Guy.
He really cares about the detail of and he. So for a long time, I've been begging the band, you know, please could someone else start a song, because, you know, I've been given that gift from the universe or from God or whatever you want to believe in, that ideas for songs get sent to me through wherever they get sent from. And then I take them to the rest of the band, and then we layer it up, and that's how we do it. And I for a long time I've been saying, Guy, I know that you write music sometimes on your own. Please, is there any way that you would, give us some of it? He's like, no, you won't like it. And then one day last February, he very quietly came over to me in our studio and said, "Oh, Chris, we did this jam yesterday that I think you should listen to." And he did, and it was the beginning of that song Magic that we just put out.
Yeah.
And then the lyrics and everything just came. I was so grateful, and it made me so happy, and that was kind of a symbol of the album as a whole, of like, we'll help each other out here.
That was the first point that the record began?
No, there were lots of songs,
yeah.
but that was the first point where I felt like, okay, everyone is invested in this.
Yes.
Everyone knows what we're trying to do, which is go a bit more personal and a bit smaller, and
yeah. Well,
they came to me with that, and that's when I felt like, okay, we're on exactly the same page. Because if they come in with like a big prod rock 9-minute bass solo, I would have been like, that's
can you imagine after you'd begged them for songs, if you had to turn around and go, yeah, that's not going to work.
I don't know if they'll ever come in with song. I think they're shy about that, but and also the way we work, it's a fun way to work, and I'm always amazingly surprised and reinvigorated about a song when Guy puts his part on, and Johnny and Will, it improves each step of the way, and that's why we share all our writing credits, because each part is so valuable.
I love that, as well. For those people that are watching this right now, it's very important in music that musicians get paid, which is harder and harder these days because music has become a free currency for most people. You can't tell a kid to pay for it now. They just won't understand. They'll be like, what? So when you break up your publishing and how you do that, it can become difficult if artists or bands decide to do that according to who did what lyric and what line, what musical note. And I always think that the greatest stories, and there are cases like yourself, like Coldplay, where you do go in with this equal approach.
It's basically equals 40, 20, 20, 20. That's how we do it.
Amazing.
I don't know if we ever told anyone that, but that's how we do it. Everything else is 25, 25, 25, 25.
Yeah, amazing. Let's talk about this amazing record, Ghost Stories, which to me kind of is encapsulated by everything we've talked about already, which is, the chemistry of the band coming together as we've established, the support which you need on a record like this for the subject matter. It feels like it's a companion piece in terms of the nature of it with parachutes, so it kind of feels like it's kind of could be sonically a bit of an extension, but modern with what you've learned with Brian and Marcus and John and all these amazing collaborators. And for me, when I pressed play on this, it felt like this was a journey that began at the start of Viva La Vida, when John Hopkins first stepped into the camp and gave you a sense of ambience, that there's beauty in that you can create drama, you don't just have to start.
No, and this is actually our sound engineer, Dan, makes synth sounds, and then sometimes when I'm demoing before showing the rest of the band, he'll show me some sounds that he's made, and this was one of them that...
Amazing.
Yeah. And then actually my daughter is singing a little bit in there as well. Yeah. So it's the whole idea of that was just a sort of idea of togetherness through life's challenges.
Yes. So you're waiting for a lyric when this starts, man, and you're waiting for how are you going to contextualize this first lyric, and it's just astounding.
Oh, thanks.
I love this lyric. Is that honest? Was that the case when you wrote that lyric? Were you having a sleepless night?
Yes, well, I've always had sleepless nights. The idea of Ghost Stories for me was, how do you let the things that happened to you in the past, your ghosts, how do you let them affect your present and your future? Because there was a time when I was feeling like they were going to drag me down and kind of ruin my life and the lives of those around me. And I was very lucky to meet a really good Sufi teacher who started to introduce me to the idea of, if you sit with your experiences and the things you've been through, they alchemize. And at the time he said that, I was like, I don't really know what that means, but I trusted that it would work. And the more that I was learning about that, the more music just started flowing through. And so most of the lyrics on this album, although they were edited and really, finessed, are very much like they're just flowing through.
I wondered if you were getting out of the way a little bit and not sitting down consciously going, this is going to be the record we're going to make or I'm going to write about, whether you were just sort of getting out of the way.
No, so those lyrics just came out in one go.
For this song?
Yeah.
This song, for me, and I'm going to read these lyrics, which I never do, but I have to, because it's just unbelievable when you put it in context. I think of you, I haven't slept. I think I do, but I don't forget. My body moves, goes where I will. Is that correct?
Where goes where I will, as in terms of where I want it to.
Yes. But though I try, my heart stays still. You're killing me now. I mean, because this is no matter how much you try to move on, that sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Right.
And then at the end, to sum it up and say, this, I guess, is to tell you you're chosen out from the rest. I mean, this in terms of as an opening song on a record. Yeah. As a listener, that you've been drawn in.
Right. Thanks, Shane. That's very kind.
And it goes on, through the record, and you were completely compelled throughout. Did you know when you finished this song that, and you listen back to it, that it would start the record? Did it start to take shape?
Yeah, 100%. Because I feel like I'm 37. The rest of us at 36, 35 was like, for one reason or another, everything going on in real life and the way that we see the world, it's like there's no point in being anything other than completely open and honest.
Yes.
And so when that song came out, I was like, oh God, that's it. That's just saying, well, it doesn't matter. Some of you won't like this, and I'm never going to be as lyrically adept as Jay-Z or Morrissey. But I can sing what I really think, or what I'm learning, or what I'm feeling, and so, in a way, I'm happy that we put that there, because it puts me at ease with, like, it's okay. I don't really mind what anyone says about this album, because it's just the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's as true as my nose. And so some people have real problem with my nose. What can I do?
Yeah, it work. This album has clear themes, man. It has clear themes. It's a heartbreaking record, but it's also a hopeful record.
Right.
I think. Was it important to you that there wasn't a wallowing in your past or a wallowing in what you were going through when you wrote these songs?
Yeah.
There was hope throughout.
Well, there were lots of songs written, but the way that we and I wanted to put it together was to be the journey from looking at everything you're going through in your life, be it good or bad or whatever, and thinking, am I going to run away from it? Am I going to blame for it? Am I going to deny it? Am I going to self-medicate? Or is there a way that by really opening yourself right up to it, that you might actually get to a more joyful place? Because I don't know if it's an English thing or a religious guilt thing, but up to a certain point in my life I was not completely vulnerable, and it caused some problems. If you don't let love really in, then you can't really give it back. And it's so for me, what Ghost Stories means to me is like, you've got to open yourself up to love, and if you really do, of course it'll be painful at times, but then it will be great at some point. You have to trust the universe, and so by the end of the record, it's getting to like a more things are going to be okay.
So it's an album that traces the lesson that you had to learn in order to move on.
Well, I think in life everyone needs to be broken in some way. There's a Japanese art form called kintsukuroi, where they smash a piece of pottery but then put it back together with gold. And I think everyone in their life goes through challenges, whether it's love or money or kids or illness, and certain poets, there's like the poet Rumi, there's this writer called Viktor Frankl. If you read their work, they talk about, like, you have to really not run away from that stuff. But
Someone said to me once, man, they were like, I was going through, tough time. I was going
Right.
through a broken time. And they said to me, I said, I just want to go back to the way things were, And he said, there is no going back.
yeah,
You can never go back. So you can either stand still and just suffer, or you can plow on through.
yeah. I think it's just life throws these colourful challenges at you. And this is not to say I've suffered, because suffering is
But
a
in
very
your own-
different thing.
But in your own way.
No, because people are going through real crazy stuff. This is just to say that everyone in their life is given challenges that you either meet or you don't. And what we decided to do on Ghost Stories was to really be honest about it and say, okay, this is what's been happening. And by the time there's a song called A Sky Full of Stars, that's like, okay, just approach everything with love and see what happens. Don't worry too much.
Did you talk to your family and to your loved ones about this record and the songs you were writing as you were writing them? Did you feel that you were compelled to do that?
Well, they all hear everything as it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was the reaction to some of these songs and some of these lyrics?
Colourful.
There's a song called Magic, obviously, which people know as a single.
Yeah.
And what I really love about this is even though, again, it's one of those heartbreaking songs where you're you're celebrating what was, you're singing with this smile on your face almost. It's kind of a joyous performance in a strange way.
Well, it is. This is the thing. That my point to you is, although it starts off seeming like a heartbreak record, it's actually not. It's a joyful
Yeah.
realization
Yes.
that you can't escape what life's going to throw at you. So just enjoy it. Like when you go to the gym and
No, I don't know about that, but thanks.
you look great. And it's like, okay, I have to do an hour on the treadmill.
Yeah.
And you're looking for any excuse not to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to do it. I feel a bit sick. Or, I'm late. But then after you do it, you're like, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
That's
That's how
what the
this
album
is.
is. It's basically 42 minutes on an emotional treadmill.
We had no idea you were making a record. Was that important?